All right, make sure you have your reference photos ready for your sculpt. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start laying on some more coils of clay coming down into this area. So again, always referring back to the reference photos. I've got a coil of clay here. And you've probably noticed, before I start laying on more coils of clay, how much all of this stuff shrank. So there is some shrinkage there. So keep that in mind as you are sculpting. If you want them to be more pronounced, you're going to need to be adding some more clay to it. All right, I'm going to start probably right about here, I think. Kind of a bigger coil of clay. Now for, again, using the reference photos, I'm not concerned about it looking exactly like to the T on how this looks in the reference photos. Pretty much, if you look at any photos of this creature, this monster, there's a lot going on. Just about every square inch of him is covered in these vines, and including the face and the head, most of the head. The head in this area up here doesn't really have a whole lot going on. Some little like vines or veins in the head. But for the most part, everything else has these huge veins or vines going on. So I've got those laid out. I'm going to go ahead and take my paste, add a little bit of moisture to these coils of clay. And then go in with my sculpting tool. My first focus here is going to be on this chest area. And then once that is done, I'll move up to the face and the head. All right, I've got that big coil there. And I'm going to just get in, first I'm going to get in the primary forms or primary shapes that are on him. And he has, down in this area here, if you look at your reference photos, it's kind of like a little triangle situation. So I'm just going to put that in there. It kind of comes down. Just sort of like that. Get the other side here. And again, I'm not trying to copy every single minute detail from these reference photos or from, clips from the movie of him, because there's so much going on with him. I think right in here, I'm just going to put a little bit more clay here. And with every section of clay that I lay down, I'm going in with my paintbrush dipped in my paste, applying that over it, and then taking my little handy sculpting tool and smoothing it out even more. But as I mentioned in the last segment of this tutorial, there's a lot of kind of rough textures in the monster itself, the creature. The textures are not completely smooth, and that's why paper mache is a really great medium for this type of character. For any kind of a character, anything that you want to create, that you want to hold a lot of texture, paper mache clay, you can't go wrong with it. All right, and then some of the other larger forms or bigger forms that I'm going to put in here. Just another coil of clay. Probably don't need that much. Gonna come down in here. Lay that bigger coil of clay in there. Probably just do one side at a time. And then I'm gonna come in with another coil of clay. I'm going to come up here, bring that down. I don't want to cover up my little spike there, but again, just the bigger forms is what I'm concentrating on. You want to make sure that you're not forgetting your sides. You don't want to have all of this stuff going on and then your sides are flat. All right, I have wedged just on the sides here some pieces of corrugated cardboard to keep it from wobbling on this stand here, but I'll give you a look at that and what's going on here. So I think what I need to do is I want to take another larger coil and I want to come down from down here. And I'm going to kind of taper it a little bit on one end, but I'm going to put it down in here and then carry it up across that one that I already laid in. So hopefully you could see what I'm doing there. There's a lot of stuff like that that's happening in this creature. So that's what I'm trying to be true to a little bit more than not. So I'm gonna, just another little coil that I put on the side here. So I put one right here and it comes up a little bit over here. Take a little bit more of my clay. Just the only thing that I can really tell you is that when you're laying on your coils and your clay to make these vines and tentacles, do it kind of haphazardly. I mean, of course, look at the reference photos. You don't want to just like scramble everything up. Look at the reference photos. Get your primary forms down. So the bigger coils, the bigger tentacles and vines, get those down. And then you could start pretty much haphazardly just laying in some of the smaller ones. So I have a little bit of a gap right there. So I'm just going to come in with a coil. You know what I think I want to do? Kind of attach it to the end where it kind of overlaps on the end of that board. Kind of have that come in just a little bit. So I'm going to bulk that up. Just a little bit more right there. And once I have a few of them down, go in with my paste and my paintbrush. All right, something else that I do want to mention is that because a lot of this shrank and I knew it was going to, so I did anticipate that, but up here I'm going to bulk in, put in some more clay, bulk up around here, and strategically bulk up in these areas too. I'm going to carry some more clay up onto some of these spikes to make the base of the spikes, or down here where the spikes are kind of growing out, make that thicker. So probably bring on up about right here, bring out some more clay in these areas to bulk this out more. But let me give you a look at the side now. So that's really looking better. Just make sure that you're carrying your forms all the way over to the side. I'm going to come down here, and where I have this coil that I put in there and it goes all the way to the side, I'm going to take that and I'm going to bring it up here. So I'm going to bulk it just a little bit. So I've got some clay here. So I'm going to come in here, lay that in there. I have to move my piece of cardboard. This won't be as wobbly as it is right now. It wants to lean towards this side because obviously I have more clay on this side, so it's heavier. But once I start working on this side and this dries and everything dries, it won't be heavy on one side. It should pretty much be weighted the way it's supposed to be weighted and not just heavy on one side. And you know, this is a wall sculpture, so you do want to make sure also that you don't have one side is heavier than the other, because when you go to hang this on your wall, you'll have issues with that. So I just took the edge of it and I came up over. Before I move on and putting in any more of these forms down here, because I'm going to insert some of the more of these little spikes in this area, but I want to work on a little more detail in the neck, and for that I'm going to switch from the Scarecrow Joe Studio clay to Creative Paper clay. You can use any kind of clay that you want, any kind of air dry clay or pre-made clay. I have this on hand, so I'm going to use it. I'm going to put one coil in here. I'm just adding a little bit of my paste so that this paper clay here will stick a little bit better. So I'm just going to come in, sort of just press that in. I'm going to come in on this side. And I'm going to roll this out pretty thin. Turn this. So this clay that's up here, it's dry. That's why I'm adding the paste on top of that dry clay, just so that'll stick a little bit better. I'm just adding paste to all these areas so that I can just carry on wherever I want to apply this and not have to worry about putting more paste in there. So I'm just sort of overlapping on my wet clay. Okay, I've laid in more of those smaller vines with the creative paper clay. You can also use, for these smaller pieces here, you can use cotton or you could use toilet paper. So for instance, here's a piece of cotton. Just gonna tear that in half and then just dip it in some paste. Kind of squeegee it out. I'll lay one in kind of just like that. And as you can see, it's the same, it's basically the same effect. It's the same thing. You'll get the same effect using cotton or even toilet paper. Cotton would probably work better because you'll be able to form it a little bit better, but pretty much the same. It's just using the clay, you can get them a little thicker, whereas with the cotton, after it dries, it's going to be more, it'll still be pronounced and on top, but it won't be as pronounced as say this paper clay here. So you don't need to go out and buy anything special. You don't need to go out and buy creative paper clay. If you wanted a different texture and just something easier to deal with, and like with my Scarecrow Joe Studio clay, as much as I love it, it's not the best to work with when it comes to like real small coils. It kind of crumbles and it falls apart. I could still use it. It's just, it takes a little bit more effort. So I have all these other materials, so that's why I'm using that to speed up the process for me a little bit. But you could certainly just use cotton or toilet paper and put in these smaller vines. So just a note on that. Okay, now that I've got that all done in there, and it looks pretty good to me, I'm gonna go in and insert some of my little spikes. These are formed out of polymer clay because I didn't want to wait for air dry clay to cure for like a couple of days. With the polymer clay, this is just Sculpting original oven baked clay. Form them, put them in the oven, bake them, and within like 15 minutes they're good to go. They're ready to be inserted. So up in this area, I'm just gonna kind of insert just a few of them, a couple of them. And obviously I need to do that before this clay starts drying. So I just inserted it into that big vine, and then around it, just like I did with these bigger spikes, I'm just coming in with a little bit more of my clay and putting some clay right around that. And then I'm just going to go in just a little bit of my paste with my small paintbrush. I've got another one, I think. Maybe that one might be too big. Yeah, I'll go with this one. And I think I'm going to stick that one down in there. Take some more clay. I just think by adding just these other details in here, it's really going to make it look more interesting. All right, I don't think I'm going to put, I might put another one right in here, but I'm not going to do that right at this moment because, like I said earlier, I'm going to apply more clay in here. So if I put a spike in there now, it's just going to be in my way when I start putting in more clay. I think maybe I'll put another one right here though. And you obviously want to do this step while your clay is wet. You know, you could You could certainly still do this after the clay is dry by gluing them on and then putting clay around it. But this is a lot easier to insert these. Just stick them in that wet clay. That way you don't have to mess with any glue or anything. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put more of these smaller coils in here. I'm going to fill in a bunch of them in here and kind of overlap a little, just make them more interesting. All of these are big and bold shapes, so I want to put some smaller shapes in there too. And then after that's done, probably go in, stick in a few more of my small spikes in these areas. And then I'm going to bulk up this shoulder here. And then I'll carry on and I'll do this side. All right, so off camera, as you can see, I did a lot of work. I finished up this side on the sculpt. And then off camera, I also sculpted up this side as well. So I finished that. And just to prove my point a little bit further, all of these pieces down here, these little vines and tendrils, these were all formed out of cotton dipped in paste. So everything pretty much, except for what you saw me lay on with the creative paper clay, which is up in these areas, everything down here I applied with the cotton dipped in paste. It works great. In fact, it was easier to use that method than to form these tendrils or these little vines out of any kind of clay. So keep that in mind. It works great. I just want to give you a closer look here. Just going to turn him. I didn't put a whole lot of those cotton tendrils in these areas, but I did a few. I also bulked up quite a bit around these spikes. So I bulked it out with some clay. I put in a little bit more of those coils in there. I came around in here so you could see all of that going on, and on the side here. And one other just small detail that I put in here. If you recall in the past section of this tutorial, past segment, I had made these spikes too big. They were just too long to sink down into my clay. So I ended up breaking them off. This right here that I'm pointing at was one of those bigger pieces, the base of a bigger piece hanging out there like that just a little bit. And you could see where it's broken off. I just think on the sculpt itself, I laid in some coils in this area. So there's like 3 vertical coils that I put in there. And then after that, I came in horizontally. And this is just one big coil that wraps around from the side and comes all the way over. So I just laid that right on top of these smaller coils that are underneath it. I did the same with this coil right here, so it kind of comes up. You probably can't see it, but there is gaps. So if I put my, this is still wet, so I don't want to, maybe something a little bit smaller here. It's still wet, so I don't want to disturb it too much, but if you could see that, it's actually raised. It's not, this whole thing is not sitting flat up against the surface. It's raised and it's connected on top. So that's another elemental detail that you could put in there as well. So overall, I'm very pleased with the sculpt on the body. I think it's great. I didn't get too crazy with putting more of these cotton tendrils up in this area. I didn't want to go overboard with it, but I'll look at it again once it's dry. But on that note, the only thing left is to sculpt out the face and the head. I'm not going to do that in this session here. I have to wait for this to dry because once again, I'm just afraid that I'm going to accidentally touch stuff. All this is very wet. And I don't want to ruin all the hard work that I put into it. So it's another one of those things with paper mache, using paper mache clay, that you have to sculpt these things out in stages and allow them to dry and then carry on, so that you're not in any danger of accidentally smashing all of the work that you already put in. So I'm going to put this in front of a fan for at least a day so that it hardens up enough so that I don't feel like I'm in any kind of danger when I go to start the sculpt on the head and the face of ruining that work. I sincerely hope that what I did show as far as laying on more clay and all of these other details was enough of an explanation for you to go off of and create your own. My ultimate goal is not to have this YouTube channel to say, hey, look at me, I can make really cool stuff. The ultimate goal is to show you how to make some really cool stuff. So if you do have any questions at this point about the materials, about the tools, about the techniques, feel free to drop those comments down in the comment section of this segment of the tutorial. But on that note, this is done. Next segment, we're gonna go ahead and finish sculpting out the head. So that's gonna be coming up really quick. So until then, as always, I thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.